What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access Entertainment. As always, please like the channel and subscribe if you haven't already, right down there. And today we have the honor and privilege of being joined by a friend of the show, my friend, and a phenomenal artist and a great intellectual mind, Master Ace. Thank you for coming through, sir.
What's going on? How you doing, Sar?
Everything is good. Everything is good. And Ace, uh, obviously, I follow Ace on social media, as everybody should if they don't. But I did remember one time we hadn't talked in a little bit, and I'd seen that you liked Abbott. I'd seen you tweeted about it, and that's a show that my wife told me about, and my wife and my daughter and I now have all loved and watched. And given that you're a fan, I wanted to talk to you about it as we got season three is unleashing as we
It's
speak.
upon us. It's upon us.
So it's very exciting. So first of all, start with some of the broad strokes before we get to the specifics. What drew you to Abbott Elementary initially?
So from what I remember, my daughter, who's now 19, I believe it was her a couple years ago when she was probably like 17. Um, I don't know if she was just randomly watching it or she mentioned it to me. Um, it was kind of like, let's check this out or something. And we watched the first episode together. It wasn't the first episode of the show, but it was like one of the early first season of the like maybe like season episode 5 of season 1 and or episode 3 or something like that. But just from that one watch, and her interest after that first episode, she kind of like faded a little. She was like, "Ah, it's cool. I like it." I was like, "Yo, this show is funny. I like this show. I like the writing. I like the characters." And so what initially started off as kind of a deal that me and her had that we were going to try to start watching the show, she kind of fell to the wayside, and I kept watching it. So every now and then she would come home from school, and I would be binge watching it. I'm like, "Yo, I'm telling you, you should have rocked with me, man. You missing a funny show." So she would sit in like having dinner while I'm watching a couple of episodes, and she was, the interest was there, but my wife would kind of do the same thing, like glancing up at the TV every now and then because certain moments were funny. Um, but with some people, and I'm kind of this way too. Like if I didn't join from the beginning, sometimes um, it's tough for me to join halfway through or to just. But I actually told my wife, I'm like, listen, this is not the kind of show where you absolutely have to watch from episode 1. Each episode is a new situation scenario, like which is good. So it's not. I mean, there's some connections, but it's not like a major thing where if you where you have to get a recap from the last episode to know what's going on in this episode, which is what I like. That's like a true sitcom. And I can't tell you the last time I enjoyed a true sitcom like on network TV. It's been a long time.
Yeah. And I agree. My one of, if not my last favorite, maybe perhaps not ironically, is Everybody Hates Chris. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
I I thought that
That
was a
was a,
brilliant show as
I,
well.
I enjoyed that as well. I mostly watched the reruns than the when it initially aired.
Oh,
Like I
me
wasn't,
too. Me too.
yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't like, it's not like I was there every week like how I am with Abbott. Like, oh, this thing's coming on this week, the first episode, let's go. Um, but I watched all the reruns, so I definitely haven't missed the episode of Everybody Hates Chris either.
Yeah, I've seen them all now, thanks to being able to stream them. But I do think there's a value. I do believe in the value of everything being on TV still, but there is the value for what we're discussing of being able to watch them on demand, streaming, because it does give you the opportunity to rewatch, to enjoy, and then sounds like for both of us at times to be able to involve our families for family viewing. But
Now I remember why my daughter initially started watching it is because she was familiar with Tyler James Williams from Everybody Hates Chris, which we watched as a family, and he was actually on one of her Disney shows that she liked. One of these Disney specials. He was like a rapper in one of these Disney specials. So that's what made her even gravitate to the show, which put me onto it. So that's the connection.
okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Now, Abbott Elementary, set in Philadelphia, home of your beloved Eagles, and
Another bonus.
and Ava Coleman, the principal, portrayed by Janelle James, is a big Eagles fan, as is Miss Chimenti, Melissa Chimenti. So there's a lot of play off the Eagles, comedy around the Eagles, both positive and negative, I would say. Uh, Perhaps none better than Miss Chimenti when when she was giving a speech to Gregory Eddie, Tyler James Williams' character, for being the teacher of the year, and she was going to use the Jalen Hurts speech she had written. So, for you, just as a football fan, but then as a fan of media and fan of art, when you get to see the comedy and the real world into this fictitious world, how does that affect you as a consumer, as a writer, as a fan?
Um, it gives me hope that, that there is good writing, there is good programming out there. Because sometimes we find ourselves just caught up in this reality TV kind of loop of the same old themes and same characters, and the catty girls fighting and arguing and eyelashes and wigs and all of that. And you know, for me, this show is more true to home for me. Sure, it being based in Philly was a bonus because I'm an Eagles fan, but you know, being based in a school felt familiar to me. It reminded me, it took me back to my younger years. Even though as students, you didn't really know the behind the scenes, so it's kind of like giving you a look at the behind the scenes. Because I worked in the school years later when I was a football coach, I got to see, the teachers talking in the break room and that kind of stuff. But as a young person, we always wondered, like, what do the teachers do when they leave the classroom? Like, what's really going on? And it's the interesting thing about the show is that the students really are, you know, they're not primary, even though it's based in a school. The students aren't primary characters at all. They're there, and there's certain elements where we get to see them, and I could tell that these aren't like actors. Like these are like real students that they brought in for these roles, which is kind of cool. I like that. I like that part of it, that they're not trained actors, and you can tell. It actually makes the show more real that the students are real. Um, but yeah, it just gives me hope, and I'm inspired as a writer, to always try to expand, my horizons and expand my talent to see what else I can, put on paper, what else I can create. I've developed a few shows on my laptop, ideas for shows, and right before our talk, I was like, you know what? And this was something that hadn't entered my mind. I was like, yo, Tyler could actually he could actually be the main character for this one idea show that I have. So
Hmm.
it wasn't. I didn't have a person in mind for this main character for. I've had this idea for years, but I hadn't thought about who it could be. Um, and now that I'm thinking about it, like you never know.
Huh, that's crazy. Now, with the students, as you said, even though it's set in a school, and of course there's a lot of teaching going on, real and imagined, as it pertains to Ava in particular, as her watching the school on occasion. But the one, to your point about the power of the kids, like the one episode where they're doing the desking, and the kids, I think, are a little more prominent because they're talking about desking, and they're uh interacting and trying to evade the teachers and even Mr. Johnson, the janitor, and stuff. When you saw that episode and you did see the kids kind of step a little bit more to the forefront than usual, what depth or what change do you think that gave that episode in particular?
I'm trying to remember the desking episode. What?
That's the one
Please.
where they uh, they discovered the footprints on top of the desk, and then they had
Oh,
Jacob, uh, Jacob Hill, go do it, so none of the kids would want to do it anymore because they knew it was dangerous.
right, right. Um, I don't know. That was probably the episode that let me know for sure that these were real students. and not actors. Um, but I still thought it was okay. You know what I mean? I'm gonna you're gonna make me go back and binge watch the first two seasons just to before I start this, before season three starts, just to make sure that I mean I've definitely seen every episode. Um, but I should just go back and watch everyone again on Hulu just to make sure that I'm remember every aspect of it. But great show, man. Great show.
All right, well, let's get into some of the other characters we haven't touched on as much. With
Yeah,
Janine Teagues is Quinta Brunson's character, and she's even though she is the main character, it's such an ensemble that
yeah,
she at times doesn't feel like the main character, even though she is.
yeah.
So, what is it about the Janine Teagues character that appeals to you or that you enjoy?
Um, uh, just her naivety. She's coming into as this new teacher who thinks she got it all figured out and she knows all the she just has a plan. And what she doesn't know, like some of the elder teachers, like the teacher that Cheryl Lee Ralph plays, is that you can have all the plans you want, but once you're in that classroom, and you get hit in the face, all plans might have to go out the window, and you got to figure some stuff out in a different way. And so, she seems really put together and has everything lined up, and then all of a sudden, something doesn't quite go the way she plans, and then she's kind of flustered, and then these other teachers, these older teachers who've been around, kind of have to come to the rescue and show her another way of doing things. And just seeing it's almost like a veteran athlete helping out a rookie athlete and showing them like, listen, I know you're out here, you're trying to show what you can do and prove everything to the coaches, but you got to pace yourself, and so that's the kind of the tutelage that she gets from from those two characters, the two elder teachers. And it's like a sweet, you know, relationship. They don't she's not cool to them. They're a different generation. And then, the principal is just hilarious to me. She clowns her constantly to, getting clowned by your principal who probably shouldn't be principal other than some
Probably.
little blackmail situation that she was able to
Right.
finagle her way into that job. But even that rings true. I feel like these things are probably somewhat close to real life when you're talking about the Department of Educations around the country. Um, and from the trailer from the new upcoming season, maybe she's going to try to turn over a new leaf, and we know that there's some more to that, but it gives you the impression that she's going to try to take this job really seriously now, and she wants to keep it. So, but I love that. I love her character very much. Janelle James, I think is her name.
Yeah, Janelle James plays the principal Ava Coleman.
Yeah, I love her character. I love her personality. I mean, whoever casted her, like they had a vision and they were smart about picking her because they could have went a totally different route with that actor, but they picked the right person.
I do agree with you wholeheartedly, and I think generally speaking, the casting on this show is phenomenal for
Amazing.
the not only the core main characters, but the supporting characters. I think are
Yeah.
remarkable as well. Before we get to some of the minor characters, with Janine and Gregory Eddie's relationship to Tyler James Williams' character, they have this mutual allure toward each other, but because as characters they're both so socially awkward, they're not able to really act on their relationship. And then when they actually do, they both shy away from it. And Gregory Eddie, Tyler James Williams' character, also has to deal with the regret of introducing his friend Maurice Vince Staples to Janine, who doesn't treat her well or doesn't treat her how he thinks she should be treated. So,
Right.
as you look at this dynamic of their Gregory, Eddie, and Janine's relationship, and then throwing Maurice Vince Staples into it, what do you get out of their interaction, and why does it resonate with you?
I mean, it's a cute, you know, budding relationship. Like we don't really fully know where it's going yet. But I saw in season one, I got the sense that there was something there. But they both had, well, she had a significant other, and then he ended up, dating the daughter of Cheryl Lee
Miss,
Ralph's
yeah,
character.
Miss Howard.
Um, yeah. And so they both kind of had somebody, but they were kind of like still kind of like looking at each other a little bit. So I could tell like, okay, they're gonna just like they're gonna milk this thing. They're gonna let this thing kind of take its course. And I'm glad they did it that way because that's kind of how it would be in real life. Because you really don't want to be going in with the workplace love affairs because things can really get complicated and funky. So both of them are a little bit nervous about that. They're both new to the school, so they don't want to be in there, screwing up too much. So they're gonna take it baby steps, which is what they've been doing. And it seems like from the trailer that they're still taking baby steps. They're sticking their toe in the water and pulling it back, and But let's see where it goes. I think if they ever full fledged decide to be dating in a relationship, move in, that kind of stuff, I think that sends the show someplace different. So I think the writers are going to avoid that. There's always going to be something that just kind of gets in the way of it really going there. So I anticipate more of that.
I agree. I think their friction, their sexual tension definitely is a good running theme and undercurrent of the show. And given their both social awkwardness and, with Gregory Eddie, it's his wanting to be principal and not being principal. With Janine, it's being respected, even though she's really not. That they always have all these things they're striving for. And I think
Right.
if they were able to find that solace with one another, it would lose some of the friction of the show.
I, I think the writers are aware of that, and they're going to just keep stringing us along sweetly and nicely.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of the older generation, you got Barbara Howard, Shirley Lee Ralph's character, and Melissa Chimenti, who is Lisa Ann Walter. And those two are both hilarious for very different reasons.
Yes.
Miss Chimenti, the hardcore white Philadelphian dealing with mob ties,
Who has ties? Definitely has ties.
street ties.
She knows the guy who knows the guy.
Exactly. And then Shirley Lee Ralph, Barbara Howard, she's the polar opposite, the very conservative church, older black woman that's very reserved and conservative in a lot of ways and is very old school. And one of the things I love about Abbott is it doesn't, while it pokes fun at the old and the new generations, it also shows a bit of reverence for them at the same time, I
Right.
think. So how did you as a viewer, consumer of the show deal with giving some respect to Miss Chimenti and Miss Howard, but also poking fun at them at the same time?
I mean, it's a lot like kind of maybe where I am in my life, in that age group where maybe certain aspects, well, certain values that I have can be helpful to the younger generation. Certain things they can learn from me, right? But then perhaps there's certain things I could learn from paying attention to what they're doing, and maybe I need to, you know, figure out how to work these new phones, or whatever that is, like whatever those things are that the new generation has a good grasp on that I've, as an older person, have been sort of trying to shy away from. Um, this is the opportunity for them to learn some stuff, but then at the same time, they can also teach some lessons, which is what I think you get a little bit of both. You get a little bit of both from those characters in the show.
Absolutely. And then with the other younger teachers, the Jacob Hill, played by Chris Perfetti,
Yeah,
uh, the white
he's
guy who
hilarious.
the white guy who's also gay and always trying to be informed, but always is two or three steps beyond politically
Yeah,
correct. Even though he
yeah,
has good intentions, he really messes up all the time.
yes.
So he to me is one of the funniest characters on so many levels. But what do you like or take from his character?
Nah, man, he's one of those. He's that character that just gets in his own way too much. Like he's just too. He's stumbling over himself, trying to show something, prove something, and he usually steps in it, and he looks really stupid in the end. Um, some of his glances to the camera are the most classic because he just says the dumbest thing in the worst moment, and then he that look. It's just like um great character, funny as hell. Enjoy his character. I'm wondering as we're talking about this, I'm wondering if the writers anticipate because this was all the entire show was created under the assumption that there was a documentary being shot at this elementary school and that there were cameras following the teachers around all the time. So I'm just wondering like how far because that's part of the enjoyment of the show is the main characters looking at the camera, making those looks, those side eyes and whatever those facial expressions. Like we need that. Um, but at some point, do they have to say, okay, documentary over? Like how many years are the cameras going to be there? Or because I feel like if I'm not correct me if I'm wrong, each of the first two seasons didn't a new school year start in season two? And then
Yeah.
I'm thinking in season three it's going to be another school year. So I don't remember in episode one if they stated how long this documentary is going to be being shot, but I'm just curious to know if they're going to continue with that, and if so, what's what's the mindset going into it? Because now that they've kind of opened up that Pandora's box, now we got to kind of ride. We expect that now. Like if all of a sudden it's just a straight sitcom without the glances, it's like not the same. So they got to keep it
And the confessionals too, because
right.
like with Jacob's character, he has by far some of the best commentaries to the camera. And one of my favorite scenes and my favorite lines is when he's introducing his boyfriend and they're all shocked that he's black. And
I was too.
Ava says, he's black. And then the character says, no, it's pronounced Zach. That's one of my favorite lines of the whole show. But the funny thing is with Janine's character, with the Tariq boyfriend, who she then jettisons later on, but Jacob and Zach, they're so different as boyfriends, but they're so integral to these storylines
Yeah, yeah.
in different ways. So let's start with Zach and Jacob. Why do you think their relationship works so well on the show?
So I don't know that they've really integrated him. I think we'll probably see more of him this year. I didn't feel like he was necessarily all that integrated yet. But of course his boyfriend's black, right? Just because he's just out there trying to that's why he's in it. That's why he's working in the school in Philly. Like he wants to show like, I'm here for the people. Like I'm here, I'm part of the people. But not as much connection to that character, that relationship yet. Like maybe I feel like it'll be more payoff um this season three. But definitely Ava's boyfriend. The fact that he's a rapper, the fact that he freestyles
Oh,
all
you
the
mean
time.
Janine's
I
boyfriend.
mean Janine, that's what I mean, Janine, yeah. The fact that he's a freestyle rapper and he's trash, but he says some slick stuff like at the same time, like he be kind of saying some cool stuff, but it's just kind of corny. Um, but all of it, taking her car to go to the studio and that whole thing.
And when he
It
did
it
the drug raps at the school, and he was like, Abbott on, Abbott on.
yo, everything about his character, like I related to because I feel like I know dudes just like this. I think hip hop knows dudes like this.
I
So
was going to say, there's several.
yeah, there's dudes like literally just like this. But that relationship for me anyway, had a lot more meat on the bone because we got to see them in different settings outside of Abbott, and we got to see how he was kind of playing her a little bit with the car and not picking her up on time and just we got to see it was a lot more insight I got into that relationship, which makes sense because she's a main character, so I get it. Um, but maybe the other relationship will start to be more pronounced in this upcoming season. Who knows? I mean, this is going to be exciting.
Well, I do hope since Tariq and Janine's relationship seems to be ended in reality, I also think I hope somehow they're able to keep Tariq in somehow.
He's got to be in there somewhere, man. That character's too good. He's got to be. He's got to pop up somewhere. Maybe he's probably going to be a. He probably won't be a recurring character, but I feel like she's going to go to some event, some club, something, and he'll be performing or something like that, and maybe they'll talk after the show or something. But yeah, I mean, she definitely doesn't need to be with him, but we still want him on the show.
Yes, for sure. Another great character is Mr. Johnson, the janitor, the older
Love
statesman. So, what
love
do you
him,
love about him?
man. Everything he reminds me of every school janitor I've ever seen. Just the got the keys to everything, got the answers to everything. Um, Everything's garbage. That's garbage. You know, even if it's not garbage, all right. And then a few minutes later, it's in the garbage because he knows it's garbage. Um, nah, I just he's a great character, and then the fact that he gets the opportunity to sometimes look out for a classroom is nuts. It's beyond bananas, but great for TV. God forbid that ever happens in real life, but you never know. You know what I'm saying? But just great character, a million one-liners. I feel like he's a man of many talents that we have yet to know about. And there's another side to him. Like we have yet to see really his home life or his outside of school life. He's only in that uniform and behind those walls of Abbott. But I have a feeling he's out there gambling and drinking, and he's with a bad crowd. But smoking cigars. But then on Monday morning, he's back at work and he's in good shape. But there's
Yeah,
there's more to him. There's more to him than meets the eye.
that's for sure. And we get glimpses of that. Um, with Mr. Eddie, we always talk about, or they talk a lot about life at times, and then Mr. Johnson is telling him about these 33 different jobs he's had, which is always hilarious. And uh, that ties into also having Orlando Jones as Mr. Eddie's dad, Tyler James Williams' character.
Yeah, which is a good choice. They look alike.
I thought so too. I was like, man, they actually, I never would have noticed that or thought of that. But when
Yeah,
they're on screen together, I was like, man, they have a
yeah.
striking resemblance. But in the midst of this comedy, where so much of the show is about comedy, their relationship, generally speaking, Tyler James William and Orlando Jones's characters, they're very, very, it's a very serious, very
More serious. Yeah,
and it's more painful too, because
yeah.
so what do you think of having that seriousness in the midst of this 95% hilarity, chaos,
I
hijinks?
love it. I
And
love it. I
why
love
does
it.
it work for you?
I love it because we all know that life isn't all fun and laughs, and behind most people's lives, most people may the outward appearance may be great life, ha ha, fun, but behind all of it, there's something heavier and deeper that may be going on in people's individual lives, and a lot of times people won't let you in to what that is, but just know that it is there. Um, so yeah, the I think with each of the characters' parents, well, definitely um Janine's character with her mom, like there's when they're dealing with their parents, you see a lot more hurt and seriousness, and it makes you, it kind of just throws a little bit of water on your face for a moment to remind you, that they became how they are for some reason, and these are the people that raised them to become how they are, and it's almost like they revert back to being children, when they're around when they're around their parents, and I've seen that with adult friends of mine, that when certain overbearing parents come around, that they revert to being children again. So it's good to see that, because it's real. It's reality. There's a lot of, in a lot of cases you see that in real life.
And to that point, like you're saying with Janine Teagues' character, Quinn Brunson's character, when Taraji P. Henson, who portrays her mother, comes on, uh, Quinn Brunson's character, Janine Teagues, really succumbs to that pressure of feeling she needs to help her mom, take care of her mom. She's going to sacrifice his stuff, give her money, not take this big trip she had planned. And Miss Howard, Cheryl Lee Ralph's character, has to tell her, like, no, you got to take care of yourself. And
Right.
so it's these two maternal figures kind of battling for Janine, and Janine trying to wrestle and navigate that emotionally and financially, which I think was very powerful in the mix. And even Janine's relationship with her sister is very strained. Um,
That's what raised the stakes on the show for me, because it wasn't just laughs. Those relationships, the way they laid those out, just seeing the messy mom come back, and you almost knew when she showed up. At some point, she's going to ask for money, and we saw it coming. She tried to act like it was something else, but then we saw, oh, yep, I knew it was coming, because we just saw how she was dressed and her demeanor. Like we know who that woman is. And sure enough, ask for money. So it it raised the stakes in the show. It made the show that much more, to me, important. And it made it even that much more of a must watch show, because within all of these hilarious, funny moments, there's going to be those little moments that are going to be slipped in there where it gets a little serious, and it gets a little heartwarming, and a little making you think a little bit more. A show that can make you laugh and think equally, for me, that's what I'm looking for. Like, if I can laugh and then have those serious moments too, that's when the show wins for me.
yeah, it's very powerful. And another of the storylines in Abbott Elementary that does that is the one with Leslie Odom Jr., Draymond, who was Miss Howard's student way back in the day, and now is doing the charter school that's theoretically going to try to take over Abbott. And
Oh, yeah.
I thought that, as you and I have talked on and off camera about the educational system and having daughters ourselves and trying to do the best and navigating the school reality for them as well as they're growing up, I thought it was very poignant, and everybody in Abbott rallying around to kind of defeat Leslie Odom Jr.'s character Draymond. So
And
when you saw that, what were you thinking?
I mean, that same that same set of circumstances kind of exists in New York City right now. There's a lot of schools that are being taken over by these charter schools. A lot of traditional, especially in Brooklyn, a lot of schools that were traditional schools, like great schools that everybody came up going to, have been broken up into charter schools. And some of the schools have three and four principals now, where it was just one building before. Now it's four different schools within the same building. Um, so I was able to immediately, relate to that, because the school that I coached at, they did that to Canarsie High School. So I got to see that, and I was just like, wow, like it's really bringing everything into the forefront, because it's happening everywhere. And so while people are watching the show, they may be going through that with their kid at their particular school, because it's happening everywhere. So another great opportunity to bring reality to the forefront in the context of a comedy show, and I think it really works, and it's great. It was great to see everybody at Abbott kind of rallied together as a team to make sure that they stayed intact.
Yeah. And speaking of the team, of course, the students there, I think, are actually, at least as we see, are 100% black, and the teachers mostly black with a few white student or teachers sprinkled in. But I think, for me at least, the show has done a good job of not making that such, even though it's there, it's not an
Yeah.
overwhelming driving force of all this other stuff. So, as you think about it, how do you think they've dealt with or examined race in ways you liked or didn't like or thought have been beneficial or not beneficial or what?
I don't think race really plays a role on this show necessarily. There's in most of these inner city schools, though, the majority of teachers are typically white. I think what they're trying to basically show us is that this particular school district is in this neighborhood is just so horrible that teachers don't want to work there. So maybe that's why because we don't really get to see by and large the I think every now and then there's like a meeting with all teachers and you kind of get a sense of who's in the room, and you're right, it's majority black teachers in the room, but I don't know. I feel like they handle race in the right way. It doesn't need to be in the forefront of the conversation for this school context. But it is something that's there, and they have their moments where they deal with it and talk about it, and they keep it they try to keep it light, but but they try to keep it real, and so I appreciate those elements of it. There's nothing about it one way or the other that bothers me. Um, I'm cool with the way they handle race in general. And yeah, you won't see white students at that school in that neighborhood because most white families won't send their kids to that neighborhood. They would rather send them to a private school, which is what is the actual reality of America in general.
Yeah, I agree. I think this show does a good job of not avoiding it, but also not making it an unnecessarily driving force.
Right. It doesn't need to be front and center topic for this comedic show. They have their moments where they'll shine a little bit of a light on something that might not seem fair just to make you kind of know. Um, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but they I think they do a good job of handling it.
Well, the one that comes to mind the most is when the student's parent came in and complained that Jacob, the white teacher, was teaching Black history. And then Ava came in and observed and was like, "Oh yeah, you're right. Let me look into it." But then realized that Jacob, on his own initiative, actually was teaching Black history almost every single day. So the reason to Jacob, who's going above and beyond to show how down he is, actually impressed Ava, who of course has never been to the classrooms or rarely goes
Right.
unless she's trying to hit on Gregory. She was just unaware that he's talking about Black history and being positive and supportive and educational almost every single day. So that was
That's
one of
dope.
those things I thought they did well and in an unexpected, clever way, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to
And
go back and watch those episodes too. I remember that episode. I will go back and watch them all.
yeah, it's pretty hilarious. So as we wrap up, what's your overall thoughts and looking forward to Abbott and why it's so important?
I'm just excited, man, for season three. I'm looking forward to being entertained. There aren't really many shows that I look forward to watching that I check the calendar and I run to the TV to watch. And so this is one of those shows. I'm still I still I'm still determined to get my wife to join in with me. I think once she watches the first couple, because she's kind of listened in, but not really fully attention because of that the cell phone. But I'm gonna see if I can get it because I'm gonna rewatch everything. So maybe before this debut of episode 1 of season 3. I'm gonna see if I can get her to at least join in with me to watch a couple of the old episodes and see if I can get on board.
Well, there it is. Well, Master Ace, thanks so much for talking Abbott Elementary.
Thank you, man.